Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm here today to give you my testimony. I know most of you know me. I grew up in this church. There's a few faces I don't know, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Bowers. I made some notes, but I already know that God will lead me in what direction He has me to go because it's already happened to me before. I gave my testimony at another church and pretty much didn't even use my notes. So I wanted to start off by saying I'm 35 years old. I was diagnosed with cancer in 2015, and I'm going to try not to cry through this. I have two little girls. Their names are Rylan and Cora. Most of you know them. They're 3 and 5. So I was diagnosed with rectal cancer, and God healed me. So as you can imagine, I was pretty much in shock whenever I was diagnosed, pretty devastated. And for several weeks, everything was kind of a blur. But God gave me family and friends, the best of friends, to guide me through it and keep me straight and tell me what I needed to do. On top of that, God gave me amazing church families that prayed for me fervently and did not give up on me. So a little bit about my story. I had went to the doctor for about a year and a half and with stomach problems, and they kept telling me that there was nothing wrong with me, that I just needed to eat better, I needed to do this, do that. Well, I knew that wasn't true because I was in the best shape of my life since high school. And I was working out all the time. I did clean eating diets. I did all kinds of things trying to fix my issues on my own. The doctors just kept throwing medicines at me, telling me, you know, you've just got acid reflux, you've got this, you've got that. And finally, God basically, I guess, led me to the right surgeon, to the right doctor who, well, I don't even know. I was very persistent because I was tired of being sick. They even put me on antidepressants because I told them, I just want to lay around all the time. I don't want to play with my kids. There's something wrong with me. And they told me, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just in your head. We don't really know what to tell you. We don't have any answers for you. So I went to a surgeon, and the surgeon, the doctors had told me to wait 2 weeks, and I waited 2 days because I just couldn't take it anymore. So I went to this surgeon, and the surgeon told me there was nothing wrong with me. He said, you're too young. There can't be anything really wrong with you. You could have Crohn's disease, which could be pretty bad. But probably it's just irritable bowel, things like that upset your stomach. I really don't think there's much we can do. And I said, no, you figure it out. So he said, okay, well, I'll do a colonoscopy. I was like, okay. He said, you really want that? I said, I don't care what you do. I just need you to figure it out. I've done every other test that I know imaginable. So they did it, and when they went in there, they found a tumor. It was 5 to 6 inches, I believe they said, in my rectum. And that was what was causing me my pain. So when I went in for surgery, everybody found out, and we told, and we asked for prayers, and everybody prayed for me, and I asked for prayer for peace for my surgery. My best friend took me to the hospital for my surgery, and I had my parents and my cousins, Jamie and Bill. I had a whole team there, and everybody prayed with me, and the nurses kept saying, you're only allowed 2 people in the room. And I said, they're here to pray with me. We're all going to pray. Please let them stay in here with me. And they did. I ended up with, what, Bill, like 10 people in the hospital room. They were, and so we all got together and we had a prayer. And when the anesthesiologist came in, he did all his things. And then he checked all my vitals and he said, you do know you're having surgery, right? I said, yes. He's like, well, it really isn't typical for people to have such low blood pressure, such low heart rate, just everything. You act like you don't even know that you're going into surgery. And I said, I've been praying for peace, and I have tons of people all over the country praying for me and praying for my peace. So I felt like I was able to be a witness to a lot of doctors, to a lot of nurses, having everyone up there. You're supposed to have 2 people in the waiting area, and I had like 10 or 15 people in the waiting area. And everybody was praying for me. Everybody was, upbeat, spirited. Everybody was nice to the nurses, the doctors, everything. I heard all about it from the nurses and doctors and things like that. I wanted to talk about a little bit of something. I feel like God prepares us for battles that he's going to give us later. I didn't know that he was preparing me. And sometimes I think that we look at pieces of the puzzles and we think we get our highs and lows off of things that happen to us, when in reality, sometimes those things are happening to us to prepare us. I didn't know that he was going to use me like this. I kind of had the attitude of, I don't know if a lot of you may or may not know, I went through a pretty heartbreaking divorce before I was diagnosed with cancer. And so my attitude was like, why is this happening to me? I've lived a good life. I've been a good person. I haven't killed anybody lately. But no, I felt like I was doing pretty much what I was supposed to be doing, but I realized that one of the things that I wasn't doing was actively serving. I was maybe in the church pew, but I wasn't out in my everyday life doing things for God. And with this, I'm able to use my testimony so much. I've helped people that were depressed. I've helped people that are going through other things that I didn't even know that I could reach. I've received messages on Facebook from people I didn't even know very well, that a friend shared my post and they've come to me and said, we just wanted you to know that we see your strength and it gives us strength. I'm going to try to stay a little bit on my notes. So that leads me to another point. So I asked, I was kind of praying about it, and I'm like, I just don't understand why this is happening to me. And God basically, he gave me my answer in telling me that I was supposed to be a blessing to other people. I was supposed to be a witness to other people. It really wasn't, maybe it was for me in the way of getting my attention, but it wasn't really for me. It was for other people. It was so that other people could use my strengths and weaknesses and grow on those. I realized that God had a job for me. I was going through these trials, and I was sitting still in life. I was doing my family thing. I was doing whatever I wanted to do, but I wasn't really serving God to my full potential. And I wasn't seeking his will for me. Let's see. And that's another thing is, I'm a talker, for those of you who don't know me. I like to talk. I enjoy people. I love people. And that was one of the things that God told me, like, that's one of your gifts. You can talk to anybody and you're not doing it, I kind of skipped around, sorry, so I'm trying to catch up on my notes. Another thing is I had to stop and look at how blessed I really am. I met a lot of people. My friend Dana and Tate, I went out to eat with them one night, and Tate says, you see that guy over there? He's got cancer. He's going through chemo. He comes to work. He throws up. He comes back, washes his hands, comes back out, and he's a waiter. And it just struck me, and he probably didn't even know how much it impacted me when it happened. When he told me all this, and he's telling me this guy's story, and this guy takes care of his invalid brother. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I don't even want to take care of my 2 kids when I come off a treatment, I'm like, dead in the water. And it made me realize how blessed I am. I had so much family and so many friends that surrounded me. I received messages from people I didn't I mean, I knew, but I didn't really have constant contact with. And they were like, what do you need? One time I was sick and some friends found out, and one of the teachers from the school calls me and says, bring your kids to my house. I'll take care of them for you. I mean, I had my family, and they helped me. My mom and dad, they took my kids anytime I was sick. My mom ran me all over town to chemo treatments every couple of weeks, and made me stay because I mean, she might be little, but she restrained me. I really did try to leave several times. Told them, this is taking too long. We got to get out of here, Mom. She's like, you kind of need those treatments. So, it was not an easy time. But I felt like that, well, let me just say this, and I've said it before. If you're ever feeling sorry for yourself, if you're ever having a down time, and not that everybody doesn't deserve them, go to MD Anderson and go to their, where they do blood draws and stuff like that, and you'll see. When I was having days and I felt sorry for myself, and I was like, why is this happening to me? And why me? And why do I have to be going through this? And I hate this and all of this. I went in there, and you see people with tumors hanging off their neck that are inoperable. They're going to die, and they know it, but it's a last-ditch effort. They're grasping to live. I met a lady with 3 kids that were, 12, 9, and 5 or something like that. And she had a brain tumor. Of course, we were talking about our cancers and different things. And she said something that she said, there's just no hope for me. I don't even know why I'm here. And I said, you're here because you have a will to live, and you never know. I said, God performs miracles every day, and you don't know what he's got in store for you. And you don't know. There was another lady, and she was one of them talking to me, and this lady, and she said, and it was the neatest thing, and she was a Christian woman, and she said that she was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 4, and they told her she couldn't live. She wasn't going to live. They didn't have any treatments for her. But we'll send you home on this chemo and this regimen. I want you to do this and just see what happens. Y'all, she's completely cancer-free today. I mean, and she was such a witness. And she told this lady her story. And this lady said, honestly, y'all, I'm mad at God. I don't want to talk to him about it. I'm mad at him. I've got 3 kids. I don't deserve this, Same attitude. Everybody's mad, because you don't understand. You don't understand it. It's a very hard thing to be told. And I can't imagine being told that you're not going to make it. But I ended up, by the end of our conversation, this lady agreed to pray about things and to think about things from my perspective and the way I was trying to get her to think of things. And she told me, thank you. She said, you really lifted my spirits today. And I thought to myself, and there's a lot of times that I was at MD Anderson and I walked around like a zombie, but I thought to myself, if I can keep an uplifted spirit and let God work through me and show in my life, how many people could I be a witness to? I even had one on my second surgery. I had an anesthesiologist who asked to stay in the room and pray with us. Y'all, that's huge. A lot of these doctors, especially at hospitals like that, I know my surgeon, I would always, say things to him, and we would joke around, and I'm pretty sure he was not a believer, but I tried to give God as much credit as I could in every time we talked to him, because he, these surgeons, they don't realize that it's God guiding their hand, that God gave it to them and God can take it away like that. And that's true in all of our lives. God gave us everything that we have. He gave us all of our talents, and everybody has something that they're proud of, and God gave it to you, and God can take it away from you. Where am I? Talking about the blessings. So I feel like, when Uncle Paul had cancer, we all prayed. We prayed a lot. We all thought we were going to get our answer. We did, but it wasn't what we all thought it was going to be. But I feel like that God used my cancer for this church. I feel like for me, for my family, he gave us hope, because I know myself, I lost a little hope. I lost a little faith whenever Uncle Paul passed away, because I didn't understand it. For those of you who don't know, he was the pastor here, and he was diagnosed with cancer and passed away. But I feel like that God used me to give people hope. People that I ran across, like I said, I got so many messages from people that said, you inspired me. We look up to you. We can't believe that you have such a positive attitude. But I'm like, I can't do that without God. I can't do that without my family. I can't do that without my friends. Whenever God took Uncle Paul, for selfish reasons, we wanted him here. But I felt like that, God's work wasn't done with him. And I didn't understand that. And what I came to realize is that he had such an impact on this church and on our family that God's work wasn't done with him, because he's still living on through all of us in here. God's using y'all. Y'all are reaching out to people. And Uncle Paul had a huge heart for sharing the love of Christ with other people. I know Bill looked up to Uncle Paul. He passed on a lot to Bill. But I believe this church, that work isn't done here. And I believe that God's using a lot of things to work in this church, and he's going to build it. Uncle Paul prepared us. He was huge on praying. He prepared us to hit our knees when we had trials. And as much faith as it took, people hit their knees when they found out I had cancer in this church. I know, because people reached out to me. And I believe that stemmed from people understanding that God gives us our answers. Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no, sometimes it's wait, maybe. But eventually we're going to get our answers. I feel like that God used me to give hope to people, hope of a positive attitude. Like I said, I'd be down in the dumps. Somebody would randomly call me or I'd get a random message from someone just thinking about you, just praying about you. And you have no idea how much that lifts people's spirits. It does. It was messages like that kind of kept me going a lot of times. Trying to think of some points. Sorry, y'all. I prepared so many notes, and I'm just... God also blessed me financially. So I was going to this CrossFit box and I had made a lot of friends there, and we talked. I worked out there. I've been working out there. Actually, I started there when I was going through my divorce. For those of you who don't know, we're kind of crazy as CrossFitters, and we're like a little cult, and that's what people say anyway. And we, everybody, it's like a family. Everybody sticks together, and they actually had a benefit for me, and people got together and raised enough money to cover almost all of my medical expenses. That was a huge blessing. For those of you who don't know, MD Anderson downtown, you have to pay to park every day. Plus, you have to pay co-pays every time you see a doctor. And for a while there, I was going no less than 4 to 5 times a week to MD Anderson every day. And then when I went through chemo and radiation the first time, I was there for 5.5 weeks straight. I went every single day except the weekends. So, I couldn't have asked for a bigger blessing financially. And then God had given me, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about building and God's preparing us. I was a stay-at-home mom, and when I went through my divorce, I really didn't know what I was going to do. But I had went to college and got my degree, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to law school. That's what I'll do. But then my dad came to me, and I had always kind of wanted to work for my dad. But it hadn't happened, so I was waiting, and Dad said, I have an opportunity for you. And he gave me a job, and I started working for him. And whenever I was going through this battle, I realized what a blessing that was. There is no other job where I could have taken off that much time without actually taking leave and going and possibly losing my job, especially in this economy right now. God gave me this job, and it was just crazy because I was there for, I think, maybe a year and a half before I was diagnosed. And my dad said, you know what? Take all the time you need. You go do your chemo treatments, you take care of your babies. That's what's important right now. Well, I have to tell you, most companies don't work that way. So, it was a huge blessing, and I was so glad that God led my dad to ask me to work for him. God led me to decide to give that a shot and not be stubborn and want to do something else. And in the long run, God has truly blessed me, y'all. Really, he has. Then I had a surgery, and I ended up having to have an ileostomy bag, which to me was just devastating. For those of you who know me, I'm very active. I go and do all the time. And this thing seriously, it was the worst thing in the world to me. I think I was more devastated about that than I was about when I found out I had cancer. I'm not really sure, but so I went and I went to the doctor after I had my surgery. They wanted to start chemo, and they told me I'd have to keep this bag for 6 months, approximately, while they did chemo, because you have to do chemo, and then they give you 4 weeks healing time from the chemo, and then they'll operate on you, which to me, I thought, I needed way more than 4 weeks anyway, after experiencing it all. But so I talked to my parents about it, and there's a lot of side effects from having that. So I talked to my parents about it. We all prayed about it. I asked for prayer about it. I was able to have that. I went in and told my doctor, my oncologist, that I didn't want to start chemo until he removed that bag, provided I was healed. And I said, I feel like God has already healed me. And I truthfully felt like my cancer was gone as soon as the tumor was removed. They removed 36 lymph nodes with the tumor, and only 2 tested positive for cancer. That's huge. They thought, he was very surprised. So I went to my oncologist, and I told them I don't want to have chemo until I have this removed. So they said, okay, but, that's not likely. Most people aren't ready by now. And we don't like to do that, and we don't like to postpone the chemo. So we went over all the medical reasons, and they really could not give me a steadfast reason as to why they had to wait a certain time frame or whatever. It was just what they did. So I said, okay, well, I don't want to start chemo until we do that. So I went in and did all the testing. And y'all, here's another thing. As if I didn't already feel like I was being led to do that, they said surgery, that was the other problem, was surgery was months out. They didn't have a spot for me. Literally, I went in there and they had something, the lady said something just opened up in 2 days. That to me is God's working, because we were praying about it. And I was kind of kind of throwing out the fleece. I'm like, okay, God, well, if I can't wait months because, you do have protocol here with the chemo and stuff. And if you wait a certain amount of time, they said it's not even worth doing it. And so I just couldn't believe it. I went in there and the nurse goes, well, looks like something just opened up on Thursday. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess there's my answer. So I go in there and they do the scans. They do all of the testing that they do. And the radiologist comes in there and she read everything and she said, I cannot believe, I was kind of worried because she came in to talk to me and she said, I cannot believe how healed up you are. Everything looks perfect. She said, and I have to tell you, I've tested other people and most of the time they cannot do the things that you're able to do and they don't have the abilities and they don't have that healing on the inside yet to where we could do this. She goes, you're a lucky girl. Very few people get to have this done right now. I said, I have to tell you, I'm not lucky. I'm blessed. And that's so the truth. I mean, just everything just fell in line. That was another thing. I was supposed to start chemo, and I decided that I wasn't going to do it. I decided that I knew that God healed me after my surgery, and that was that, and I wasn't going to do chemo. And my dad said, you know what? Pray about it. If that's what you feel, we will back you up. My friends thought I was kind of crazy. Dana, back here, she said, are you crazy? Like, what if something happens? She said, I got your back no matter what, but I would do it. And several of my friends thought I should do it, but I started praying about it, and I felt like, on one hand, I felt, it's hard sometimes when you're praying about things because you want something, and that's where your answers come in, and sometimes you're like, I didn't really, I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I'm talking about. You want it so bad that you're like, God's telling me yes. I know he's telling me yes. And maybe he's really not. So I was praying about it, and the chemo, I didn't really know what to do. So I was at my benefit, and they came in, a guy that works out with me came in, and he said, I don't share this with a lot of people, but I had cancer. And proceeded to tell me a little bit about his story. He said, and y'all, I had not told this guy at all that I was thinking about not doing chemo. I hadn't said anything really to anybody outside of my immediate family. And he said, but there was something else I wanted to tell you. Are you going to take chemo? And I said, oh, well, I'm not sure. I'm really still debating that. And he said, because I wanted to tell you about this girl that I know that had cancer. And she was like you, about, around your age, and she had two kids, and sorry, I lose my train of thought really easy. She went to the doctor. She decided she was going to do this all-natural chemo and everything, and she wasn't going to do the real chemo. He said, and 3 months later, she went in, and it had spread to her entire body. It was supposedly all gone. But it spread to her entire body, and she died within another 3 months of that. He said, so if you have any question about that, and y'all, I hadn't told him anything. He just came up to me and started talking to me about this girl. I mean, and I'm like, okay, I think this is my answer. And then I had someone else come up and tell me another similar story about someone, and this is at a different time, came up and told me another similar story about this same kind of thing. And I was like, okay, God, I guess you're telling me to do this, And I believe he was. I believe God sends people into your life for a purpose. Some of those people stay in your life. Some of those people go. I attend another church pretty regularly. And you all know Pastor Alan Noland. And he was working at my house one day. He does contract labor. And he was working at my house, and I was having a really, really tough time. And I was emotionally really down. It was right around my birthday, and I was going to, I was going out with this guy, and we were all supposed to go out on a double date that night, and I just felt horrible. And I wasn't able to do a whole lot regularly. You can ask my friends. It was sort of like, all right, let's lay around the house and hang out, you know. I mean, we went out sometimes, but I was very limited. So I was feeling horrible, and I got to feeling worse and worse. And God kept telling me, go pray with Alan. He's out there. All you got to do is ask him. No, I'm fine. I don't really want. I mean, just something just weighed so heavy on me. I'm in there getting around like, I've got to finish getting ready. It's not that big a deal. I just don't feel good. And finally, I thought, okay, fine. I'll go pray with him, you know? And so I get up and I go out there and I said, Alan, I know you're really busy, but is there any way you can pray with me? And he said, absolutely. And like puts his tools down and goes down the ladder. And I'm like, whoa, I mean, if you're busy, like we can do it later. And he came in and he was like, no, right now. And we went inside and we had prayer together. We held hands and prayed. And he prayed for healing. He prayed for me to feel better. And I'm not saying I instantaneously just felt all better, but after that, I had this peace, and I gradually got better, and I went out that night and had a blast, and I felt much better. Talking to Alan about it, and I said, you know, I just felt like at that point in time, God was telling me that I had to be obedient, to have that faith, to be obedient, and to know that God's in control. And he was telling me that for a reason. He was telling me to go and pray with Alan for a reason, and Alan said, I already knew. He said, God, I knew you were in there, and I knew you were suffering, and I kept wanting to go in there and pray with you, and God kept telling me, let her come to you. I want her to be obedient and come to you. And so I feel like that if I can get anything across to everybody today, it's to seek God's will. I don't do it enough, but I have to tell you this will bring you close to God. But I don't want God to have to get anybody else's attention this way, that's for sure. So seek God, be obedient. Remember how blessed you are through your trials. Try to look at the bright side of things. Just remember that trials are a part of a bigger picture. Everybody goes through them. And I'm not saying that makes them any easier, but if you know that it could be for the greater good, then I would say just pray about it and know that God's building you and God's working in your life. And he's working in other people's lives. And he's using you as he's using me to witness to other people and to be a part of their life. So thank you very much for listening today.